Hi everybody, it's Michelle with Little Acorn Handcrafts, and I am very excited to say that not only did we hit our 200 subscribers last week, but we are well on our way to 250 and beyond. So I wanted to do our weekly check-in and go through what I've been working on this week and commiserate because it hasn't been going very well and talk about that. And then at the end of the video, we'll talk about the giveaway criteria that we spoke about last week for achieving the 200 subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, we've been talking about the Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick blanket that I was making. And if you watched some of the unboxing videos from last week, I did get in the rest of the yarn that I needed, or so I thought. So I just wanted to share, I have completed all of the squares that are going to be in this barley color of the Thick and Quick. And I did go ahead and edge the one that will have that joining color on all four sides, just so I could see what it looked like. And then the yarn that I had been waiting on was also Wool Ease Thick and Quick in the toasted almond color. And if you remember, it's a black background with several different shades of brown mixed in with it. And when I started the blanket, I only had one skein of that in my stash. So I knew I was going to have to order some more. And it turns out that those skeins are a little bit less yardage than the standard Wool Ease Thick and Quick skeins. So it's taking me, whereas the barley was one skein, was one granny square, it's taking me a skein and a bit. So I thought that I had ordered enough, and I did complete 5 of the squares in this color. Oh no, just 4 in their entirety, and then almost the 5th one. So this still has about a round and a half to go on it before it's done, and I ran out of yarn. So I'm going to have to place another order, which means that this project is on hold while I wait for a couple more skeins of this color. So I have to set that one aside. Normally, I have probably 3-ish blankets going at once, and that's because I tend to maybe get bored with what I'm doing, bored with colors or the design, or I get to a stopping point and I want to do something else. So that piece is not unusual for me to have several things going at once. But then we had the one big one that we had to stop on, and this is such a quick project. If you started this project and you had all the materials, you could easily get this blanket done in a weekend, if that's pretty much what you were spending your days doing. I also started the Lion Brand temperature blanket for the year, which is a daily row of single crochet. And that was going swimmingly. I haven't shared that with you yet, just because it's about, this big. So it's not a lot to look at. It will. And then we had a crazy, unseasonably warm day here. And that temperature range happened to be one of the 3 colors of the blanket that I did not have when we started. So I had already placed the order, but I think just yesterday I got notified that it finally has shipped. So it won't come until next week. So now I'm going to be behind and not doing it every day and have to have a day where I do several rows to get caught up. But so that blanket was on hold and had to be set aside. Then I had been waiting to start this not so scrappy blanket that is actually off the Lion Brand website and made with this remake yarn. And it's a 4-weight yarn. The skeins are 217 yards, and it is 100% recycled polyester. Very, very soft, really pretty colors. Comes in 12 different colors. So this was actually a kit, and it was on a day some time ago where kits were 30% off. And you got one skein of every color. So every one of the 12 colors. So I'll just go through those really quick. This is Peacock, really pretty. This is a pale pink. This purpley color is Eggplant. Actually did wind this up in a ball, which I'll explain in a little bit. And that color is, see, I have all my labels sitting over here so we can count out how much yarn I opened this week. Burgundy. Then this nice golden yellow color is Amber. This blue is called Azure Blue. And this kind of pea green is called Split Pea, appropriately. And then there's a little bit darker blue, which is called Sea Spray. I would say this looks almost purpley, but it's actually called Classic Navy. I don't know, if you put it next to a blue, it really looks purple, but a different kind of purple than the Eggplant. Then there is this lilac color, also appropriately called Dusty Lilac. This nice kind of beige, which is called Hazelnut. And last but not least, kind of a tan color, which is called Chestnut. But really pretty rich colors, and I'll add a picture in here of all of these from this angle all together. Blend perfectly together. Lion Brand does that with a couple of their yarns where regardless of what you would grab, it all kind of blends together. You could put it together in a blanket. But when I looked at the pattern, you see that there are, it looks like in the picture, 6 colors. So I was a little confused, but when I read the directions, what you are doing is crocheting with 2 strands of color together. But if you look at the picture, it's very hard to see that. I mean, it definitely looks like burgundy, cream, blue, orange, and pink, and then the other light blue on there. So I did start that, and the first 2 colors that they had you blend together were this burgundy and the Eggplant. And I did the first row of the blanket, and I really didn't like it. To me, at least, not 10 feet away in a picture, it did not look like one blended color. It looked like very distinct colors, and I just didn't care for it. So I frogged it all back. That's why this burgundy ended up in the ball. And I still really like the blanket and the appearance of the blanket. So I thought, well, I will just crochet with 1 strand of each of these colors, and I'll put all 12 of them in there. And I did that. I started it wherever it went in here. So this is the Eggplant, and it's not very big. And I realized this is going to be a really tiny blanket if I do this. So instead, what I did was I went on Lion Brand and I placed another order. I got another skein of each of these colors. And I'm going to put 2 strands of the Eggplant, 2 strands of the pink, and do it that way. And I think that I will like the finished product much better. So again, okay, set this one aside and wait for an order to arrive, which that one also has shipped, but still on hold. So then I moved on to another project that I have been eagerly waiting to get started. And that is this Mountain Throw by Mama in a Stitch. And she has some really, really nice blanket patterns. If you have not come across her yet, definitely search her out. She has some stuff available on her website, but then lots of stuff via Etsy, and Lion Brand actually has published some of her things as well. So this Mama in a Stitch uses the Lion Brand Ferris wheel yarn, which I actually have a lot of. I have a little bit in this particular project pouch, but I have a whole thing of all different colors. And if you see from the colors in the picture, you can kind of tell that they're using different colorways of this same yarn. And so I thought this will be really fun. I did start it out and I made a terrible mistake that I know better. But I thought I needed an H hook for the pattern, and I should have grabbed an I or maybe even a J to do the starting chain or the foundation chain. And instead, I convinced myself that I could just crochet loosely. This yarn is really soft and squishy. So I thought we'd be okay. And I have, I don't know, I probably can't even show you. I'll try it and lay it out, but it's too tight. And I'm getting the kind of a smile action going on with the blanket. I really did not entirely know if I liked it. I was not loving this yellow color mixed in with the yarn. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crochet one whole skein of yarn, and then I'll decide if I like it or not before I rip it back. And I did that, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder, I kept stretching this foundation chain and hoping that I could get it where I needed it to go. But the stitch itself is this granny spike stitch, which is very stretchy. So it is just not jiving. And I think I'm going to have to frog the whole thing back and start over. I will share the yarns colors that go into this. So this is this Ferris wheel yarn. It is a 4-weight. It is a very thin 4-weight. And it has all these different colors in it. And it calls for the pink lemonade, which is this colorway. And you can see there's, well, from this side really, you can see a little bit of that golden yellow mixed in with the pinks and purples and brown. And then some of the Imaginary Garden, which is a lot of blues and greens. I really like this one. And this is actually, I did start this skein. So you can see the last few rows are the green and blue. And lo and behold, it does look kind of cool with the other skein of yarn, which had some bright turquoisey in it and pink and gold and the olive green. And that colorway, where I got those colors from, is called Summer Day. And these skeins of yarn are $4.99 a piece. Hirschner sells them, and of course Lion Brand sells them, and usually one of the two of them has them on sale. And so you can get them pretty inexpensively. Let's see, this colorway is called Buttercup. So it calls for some of these, and it's got that yellow color in it, some red and blues and a gray and maybe even a light purple. And some of the colors, you really don't even see them until you start crocheting and putting it all together. But anyway, it takes 9 skeins of this to make a lap blanket. And I did Google and tried to find ways. There's got to be a way to fix this, right? And aside from, spraying it and getting it wet and trying to stretch it and pin it, it sounds like really there is no way to fix this. But if anybody has any great ideas, I mean, I even considered what happens if I cut this and take it out? And how horrible will that be? And could I do something to the bottom of it to hold it together still? Anyway, it's not the end of the world. It isn't a huge amount of work. I don't know, what is that, about 6 inches probably. But if anybody has any ideas on how you might fix that, I would love to hear them. Otherwise, I will be frogging this and starting over. So I also set this one aside. During the week, I really only have maybe 2 or 3 hours max in the evenings to crochet. So, you know, it was a lot of, well, didn't accomplish anything tonight, and move on. Last night, I started yet another blanket because I now have 3 that I can't move forward on yet. And this is another one, a kit off of Lion Brand. And this pattern is actually available for free. So you don't have to buy the kit. You can just download the pattern. It's called Stargazer Throw. And this is by Two of Wands, who is another really prolific pattern designer, has her own lines of yarn with Lion Brand, both the Hue and Me and Color Theory is the other one. So I have used Hue and Me before, and I have a lot of that. That's this yarn right here in these 3 cubicles. I like to have some of every color of that. One of the cool things about the Hue and Me is that all of the colors are intended to be interchangeable, mix and match, that can go together. And so I saw this Stargazer Throw. I actually downloaded this pattern a really long time ago. And the colorway represented here didn't overly appeal to me. So I've always kind of put it in the back of my head. But I saw on Pinterest the other day where somebody used the color salt for the basis of the blanket instead of the dark gray. So I have a bunch of that. Although, guess what? I'm going to be short 2 skeins. So I'm going to have to go buy some of that too. And they don't sell that at Michael's either. So we'll be ordering. Really need a Lion Brand store. Anyway, so I used the salt. And so far I've got 4 different colors for the accent. I've started with the green, which is a juniper, and I'll tell you a little bit about this yarn. It is, again, it's designed by Two of Wands. It's called Hue and Me. It's a chunky wool blend in a 5 weight. There are 137 yards in each of the skeins, and it comes in a lot of colors, and they added more colors last year. But the colors so far that I've used are the salt, and then the juniper, which is this darkish green color, and then crush. So the crush is this kind of cool color. I'm not really sure where they came up with the name, but it's sort of a dusty looking burgundy color, really pretty. And then Terra, which is kind of this dusty looking coffee color, and Iris, which is this light purple. Now in the pattern, they're recommending, with the gray, 4 accent colors. And while I was crocheting, I remembered that a previous blanket that I've made with this had a lot left over. I have also frogged an entire blanket that I made with this yarn at one time. So I have a bunch of scraps rolled up in balls. So I did dig those out this morning and pulled those out. I think I'm just going to use a bunch of those as well, kind of stash busting, and have it be, just lots of colors, all the Hue and Me colorways that are offered. But this yarn is really nice, and I was going to tell you the fabric blend. It's 80% acrylic and 20% wool, so similar to the Wool Ease Thick and Quick. So this one is actually something I can work on today because I have tons of this yarn, and I'm not going to run out of the salt color till like the end. So that's what I'll be working on this weekend. And then, of course, I do like to have something that is, what do you call that? Immediate gratification. So not a blanket to work on, even though this will be fast. It will go quick. So I am going to pull out some of that chenille that I ordered truckloads of from Premier, and I think make some plushy dogs and cats. Try my hand at that. So I'll be sharing how that turned out next week. Anyway, so I hope that you had a more productive crochet week than I did, but I've done a lot of work and unfortunately just no fruits of the labor quite yet. I'm going to go through how many skeins of yarn I either used or started to use this week. So first one was the remake label off of that burgundy yarn. I left the label on the eggplant color, and I'll leave it there until I actually use it up. So we're counting just one for the burgundy. One of the basic stitch in the sage that I opened for the temperature blanket. That's also to stand still. One of the Ferris wheel. Boy, I'm really using a lot of Lion Brand yarn. From the summer day. Then we have one of the Wool Ease Thick and Quick barley. That was the last square in the barley from that blanket. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the toasted almond from that graining blanket. And then 1 salt, 1 juniper, 1 crush, 1 Tara, and 1 iris in the Hue and Me. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 1 lone Premier L by me on the scarf that I'm working on that I'm still only about a third of the way through. 16 skeins of yarn, and I didn't get anything done. But that's almost, a whole square. And I was able to put some other things away and have a few empty spots to pack some of this stuff, because I do have 2 large boxes and several bags of yarn sitting on the floor in my studio. So that's enough of that. And now the fun part. Because we not only met, but exceeded the goal and objective of subscriber count getting to 200 last week, we will be holding a yarn giveaway. And I am going to pack one of these boxes I've received yarn in full of different yarns. The person who wins will, I'll have some outreach with them and find out what weights of yarn they prefer to use, if they are drawn to particular colorways or fabric contents. And I am going to clear some stash out of my own yarn so that I can have room to put some of the new stuff away that I have. And then we'll be holding that contest open for 48 hours. So how to enter? You have to be a subscriber to the channel, and I would like to see comments made to this video. Tell me why you crochet or what you love about crochet. I think it'll be a nice exchange between all of us and kind of how we got here, or what makes us happy, or why we continue to do it. And I will then use the YouTube automated picker. So we'll do 48 hours from the posting of this video and select a winner, and we'll make that public announcement also via another video of who the winner is, and then we'll get a box of yarn packed up to them. And after they receive it, and I know that they've had it and had the surprise, then I will also air the video of all the yarns that went into the box. All right, I'm very excited. I'm excited to have the space. I'm excited to share some of the emotion that I get when I get a box that is a surprise yarn. I love to buy those surprise bags. It's just fun to see things that maybe you wouldn't normally order, and to be exposed or introduced to yarns that you maybe hadn't considered before. So I'm very excited. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Make something beautiful, and we'll talk soon.